another source of worry. They can deploy not only aircraft and vessels in that area, they can deploy the potent and much vaunted Dongfeng 21D hyper missile. They call it a carrier killer. Pag na-deploy yan, hahaba yung reach nila. And it's going to be very difficult for the US Navy to put their aircraft carriers near the South China Sea, if we are to believe the claim of China that it can hit a moving aircraft carrier. Because the concept is like this, no? Ito pwede mangyari dito. Yung offensive capability of the Dongfeng missile, but of course the US Navy is saying, oh, we can counteract that. So we will see now the offense of China as projected, and the defense of the US as projected also. Nobody knows what is going to happen dahil hindi pa nagawa ito, no? In actuality.
The U.S. Navy believes China's Dongfeng 21D carrier killer missile has reached initial operating capability. According to state-run media, China would attack an American carrier with 3 salvos of the missile. The first would pierce the hull, start fires, and shut down the flight deck. The second would knock out the engines and be accompanied by air attacks. The third would sink the carrier. The Navy would seek to disable the 21D during all phases of its trajectory. Missile defense cruisers could shoot it down. Electronic warfare aircraft could jam it. The missile could also be tricked into thinking the carrier is somewhere it's not.
So that's the situation now. The Chinese are claiming that with terminal guidance, they can go after an aircraft carrier about 1,500, 2,000 kilometers away and hit an aircraft carrier moving at about 35 knots. But the US Navy is saying we can counteract that with electronic countermeasures, with fake targets, and of course anti-missile missiles or yung mga seaweeds nila. Meron ding development now in the South China Sea because recently surveillance spotted a survey ship near Rectobank. Ito yung Rectobank, no? And ito kasi, pag meron ganyang surveillance, ang worry natin na yan ang unang step nila before they do a takeover operation. Ito yung Mississippi Reef, Panganiban Reef, no? Yung Ayungin, andyan yung LST na kasadsad. And that's very close to Rectobank. Because the moment they control this, kaya pinag-iinitan itong lugar na ito, because the next step is Rectobank, which is quite a big body of shallow water, and it is reportedly rich in natural resources like fish, yung natural gas, and even oil. Ito yung mga countries that are occupying the various features: Philippines, China, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Taiwan. Now, what is happening here? Meron tinatawag na first island chain. China has the first line of defense, the so-called first island chain, that stretches from the Malaysia-Brunei area and goes north across Japan all the way to the Aleutians. Doon ba na papunta na sa may Alaska. Yan ang first line, first island chain nila, and they're using that to prevent hostile forces from entering the South China Sea or getting close to mainland China. But at the same time, well, that is a defense line, it is also a potential take-off point because their ultimate objective is to be able to push outward towards the east, towards the second island chain nila. And the second island chain stretches from Japan to Guam, papunta na sa may Guadalcanal area, dito sa may Australia area. And that will put the Philippines inside their second island chain. Kung mag-succeed sila dyan. So, ito ang pinag-aaralan ngayon, no? So, of course, if you are the existing power, you want to keep China within the first island chain and even break into the first island chain. China naman gustong mag-move forward para may break out yung kanilang bigger navy. so they can control a bigger body of water that will cover the entire Philippine Sea. The Philippine Sea is that sea from the Philippines all the way to Guam in the Philippine Sea. Yeah. First island chain and second island chain. President Xi Jinping delivered a speech saying that he is committed to peace, that the Chinese love peace. But while he was delivering his speech, nagkaroon din sila ng kanilang big military parade. This was on September 3, with displaying their military capability, tanks, missiles, troops, helicopters, etc., etc. So it is a contradiction. While he was talking of peace, he was showing off his military hardware. So if I talk to you, for example, about peace, and then I'm surrounded by heavily armed bodyguards, and I myself am bristling with weapons, how can I say that I'm a peaceful man? So ganun ang sitwasyon dito, no? Ni President Xi Jinping. Look at ito yung Dongfeng 21D missile nila na display nila. They're very proud of this. And they have a layered deterrence strategy. Ito yung layered deterrence strategy nila, supposedly for defense around China. Meron silang Dongfeng 21D anti-ship ballistic missile with a range of 2,000 kilometers to drive away the US aircraft carriers. But they also have the short-range ballistic missiles that can hit Japan and other closer targets like South Korea. Meron silang DF-10A land attack cruise missiles that may be able to go as far as Guam, depending on where you position this. Now, another form of aggression, I'd like to take this up also, is economic aggression. How do they do this? By dumping cheap, low-quality products. Marami sa atin natutuwa, ay, murang-mura, punta tayo ng Divisoria. Murang-mura yung mga produkto nila. And that's understandable for families with low budget. But what we don't know what is happening is they're also destroying our local industry. Dati, bago lumakas ang China, marami tayong mga garments industries. Textile industry natin, pero unti-unti nawala kasi hindi tayo makapag-compete dito sa cheap, low-quality products nila. Kaya ang sagot natin dito, to boycott China products, especially yung mga garments nila. Ang panawagan namin, kung mamimili kayo, like what I do now, every time I look at some garments, I ask, saan magawa ito? Pag made in China, sabi ko, iba na lang. Maghanap na lang ng substitute. Marami naman magaling dyan. Made in the Philippines, made in Vietnam, Sri Lanka, India, na pareho, and in fact, better quality. Kaya yan ang dapat gawin natin, no? Para labanan natin. Kasi we must remember, tuwing bibili tayo ng produkto galing sa China, we are strengthening them economically. At pag pinalakas natin sila economically, gagamitin nila yung pera nila para palakasin yung kanilang military. Kaya sila lumakas militarily because of their economic rise. At mabuti naman, even in the States, yung mga Pinoys natin doon, mga Pilam doon, meron din silang boycott China products in the United States. Another form of aggression, environmental. And this I would like to take up in detail. What's this? Destruction of coral reef, harvesting of pawikans, sharks, giant clams, illegal mining, yung mga black sand, at marami pang iba. Ito yung mga nangyayari, no? Aside from the military objective accomplished by reclamation, while they are reclaiming, they are destroying the environment. Yung lugar na yan kasi, yung lugar na to, itong reclamation area na to, these are very important. Mga 300 million people are dependent on the marine resources of the South China Sea. Napakalaki nito lugar na ito. Diyan yung spawning grounds ng mga isda. At in fact, ito yung Fiery Cross, no? Ulitin ko lang, no? Ito yung Fiery Cross, dati puro dagat, ayan na, tinakpan na yung coral reef. Naalala nyo yung merong US ship na nag-run aground sa Tupataha. Ilang metro lang nasira, naging malaking issue. Ito hindi lang metro, kundi kilometro yung haba ng nasisirang coral reef dyan. And merong Professor McManus, sabi niya, he's a leading marine biologist. He analyzed what's happening there. And he made the conclusion that what he is seeing there, in terms of acres of reef, they constitute the quickest rate of permanent loss of coral reef area in human history. Imagine, in human history, ganyan katindi yung nangyayari doon. Yung environmental destruction. Ito yung Mischief Reef, nasa loob ng ating exclusive economic zone. Ito na yan, biro mo yung coral reef na tinambakan dito. Pero habang nagtatambak sila, sinisira rin nila yung area nila sa loob ng lagoon. By the way, itong Mischief Reef, yung lagoon na ito is about 35 square kilometers, about a little smaller than the area of my city, Parañaque. Kaya napakalaki nitong lugar na ito. Ito yung Subi Reef, malapit sa Pag-asa, yung ating Pag-asa, ayan na. In just a short time. Kaya ito, ang sabi rin nila, yung South China Sea accounts for 10% of global fish stocks of the world. Ganyan kalaki itong South China Sea, 10%. Eh kung kayo, halimbawa, meron kayong rasyon, tapos binawasan ko ng 10% ang rasyon nyo, in a few months, papayat kayo. Ganyan din nangyayari sa mundo, papayat ang mundo, dahil nasisira yung food supply ng mundo. Kasi maraming mga tao, maraming bansa umaasa sa isda. Kaya anong ginawa namin dito, no? Ito yung land reclamation activities nila. What we did in Marcha, in the movement and alliance to resist China's aggression, we wrote the United Nations, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, and also the UNEP Executive Director. UNEP is United Nations Environment Program, headed by Achim Steiner in German, and asked them to investigate what's happening in the South China Sea. At tamang-tama, very relevant ito because the United Nations just came out with the so-called SDGs. No? Ano ba SDGs? Sustainable Development Goals. Dati meron MDG, Millennium Development Goals, that were supposed to be achieved itong year na ito, 2015. Ito merong SDG, iba-iba yan. And one of the goals, one of the 17 goals, is conserve and sustainably use the ocean, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. So sabi namin, we are alarmed that China's reclamation activities in the South China Sea have caused and are causing irreparable damage to the coral reefs in the affected areas. At tama-tama, nung ginawa nila yan, September 25, there were so many world leaders in the United Nations General Assembly, and one of them was President Xi Jinping. So, ang sinasabi namin dito, okay, kayo naglabas yan, hindi kami. Now, let's see whether you can do something about the goal that you have started. So, they better take action on this. Otherwise, magiging inutil yung UN, magiging inutil yung United Nations Environment Program. Another form of aggression, social aggression, destroying the social fabric of the country because 90% of illegal drugs come from China. Parati na sinasabi, milyon-milyon na ang nabibiktima ng illegal drugs. 90% of that galing sa China, raw materials, tapos pinaprocess dito. Kung wala ang China, wala tayong ganito kalaking problema kasi walang raw material. And they're doing this maybe to earn money illegally and at the same time destroy our social fabric, to weaken us as a society. And isa pang nakakatakot yung political interference, political aggression. How do they do that? You know, China, mamaya di-discuss ko yan, no? Anyway, balik tayo sa strategy. China is big, but China suffers from a very vulnerable geography. Malaking bansa. Kaya lang, naka-corner siya. Corner siya, tingnan nyo itong China, no? Yung coastline niya is short with respect to its landmass. And it is surrounded. Doon sa east, surrounded, nakapantay yung Japan. Dito, hindi sila makakalabas dito sa East China Sea between Japan and Taiwan. Of course, tayo dito, nakabalandra tayo dito. Mahirap pa sila dumaan between Taiwan and the Philippines for as long as we are good in guarding this together with Taiwan.